I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, happy Friday. I'm back with my weekly show here on GB News every Friday night at 7 p.m. with a bit of fun, fierce and fearless debate. Coming up on the show tonight, we'll be looking at the release of the Census stats and debating identity politics. We'll also be talking about the royal race row and whether Lady Susan Hussey was right to resign. No, she wasn't. And then I'll be speaking to Nina Myskow on another fiery edition of what we're calling Dish It Out, but we've got to change the name. But first, here's the news.
Good evening, I'm Alice Porter in the GB Newsroom. It's been confirmed that 6 young children in the UK have now died from a Strep A infection. The UK Health Security Agency say they're investigating after a rise in rare invasive Group A strep, with 5 deaths of under 10s in England since September. A child also died in Wales last week. Health officials say they've seen a slight rise in cases of Strep A, which can cause scarlet fever, though deaths and serious complications from the infection are rare. Chemotherapy and dialysis are among a list of services that will be protected from strikes in the build-up to Christmas. The Royal College of Nursing has also announced that critical care units, neonatal and paediatric intensive care will not be impacted. Other services will be severely reduced. Members of the RCN in England, Wales and Northern Ireland are set to take industrial action on December the 15th and 20th. GB News understands that health officials are dealing with new cases of diphtheria at the Manston Migrant Processing Centre in Kent. The cases were discovered among the more than 2,000 Channel migrants who've arrived on small boats in recent days. GB News has obtained exclusive images from inside Manston, revealing some of the poor conditions migrants are living in. Official sources have told us they believe those testing positive for diphtheria contracted it while living rough in France. Sajid Javid has become the latest Conservative MP to announce he won't be standing at the next general election. The MP for Bromsgrove was Health Secretary until July this year, when he stood in the Tory leadership campaign. He is one of the most prominent Tory MPs to announce they're to step down, with Prime Minister Rishi Sunak saying he's sad to see his good friend stepping back from politics. In a letter to the Bromsgrove Conservative Association, Mr Javid said serving the government had been the biggest privilege of his life. The RMT union boss has held urgent talks with the government in a bid to halt strikes planned over the Christmas period. Mick Lynch met Scotland's Transport Minister yesterday. The pair have urged Westminster to intervene in the Network Rail pay dispute. Transport Secretary Mark Harper said he wanted to work with the RMT and the employers in good faith to resolve issues. Mr Lynch said talks will continue over the weekend. TV online and DAB plus radio, this is GB News. Now it's back to Laurence Fox.
Good evening. There are two reasons to corral animals. One of them is to gather them together in darkness to keep them safe from predators, and the other is when they are being prepared for slaughter. This week, we have seen new ONS data which reveals that the UK is undergoing the most dramatic demographic shift in modern history. Roughly 2/3 of Londoners now identify as BAME. Forgive me, sorry, no, BAME is outdated. No longer the de rigueur way of lumping individuals into pejorative groups. BAME has been now superseded, at least by Westminster Council, with a new and altogether more sinister phrase, the global majority. Westminster Council are committed to inculcating this strange post-colonial jargon into the alphabet soup of acceptable modern parlance imminently. Yippee! Slaughter by cancellation awaits anyone who even quietly moves dissent that Britain itself is perhaps being colonised and we, the taxpayer, are being milked for the privilege. Our champagne-swilling friends, though, in their overpriced hutches off Upper Street, who spent the last 2 years having their Waitrose wines and Fairtrade Ocado avocados delivered to them by this revered global majority, sit in their kimonos proselytising about anything and everything Britain has done to deserve this cultural self-destruction and self-flagellation. So they raucously applaud on social media and indeed in all the media, clapping along in agreement with each other like seals at a circus about the vileness of whiteness which stains the faces and souls of their fellow countrymen. This week brought a new cause for them to rally around after a woman from Hackney, Ngozi Fulani, got invited to a royal garden party and looked a gift horse dead in the mouth. A horrifically privileged 83-year-old white privileged servant to the Queen resigned her position in shame after our weak-chinned king threw her under the bus for asking Ngozi the terrible question, "Where are you from?" In the meantime, Ngozi sauntered off back to Hackney for a costume change, safe in the knowledge that no white-skinned racist will ever ask where she came from ever again, for fear of cancellation. Where do you come from? It is the most innocuous conversation opener in history, but now it's firmly engraved in the woke book of racist slurs. A very British greeting now stopped firmly in every white British mouth as we are herded like dumb cattle too afraid to open our mouths at those who control our every thought, word, move or deed for our own good, herded towards safety or corralled towards the slaughterhouse. Usually I wouldn't care too much about demographic shifts or moderate and controlled immigration because the majority of immigrants settle into this giant shared field of ours, by and large adopt and adore the British way of life. But there are unsettling nuances to this development, not least the exponential rise in identity politics, blighting every part of our country's cultural landscape by people like Ngozi and the same old race baiters who sit glued to Jeremy Vine's chairs daily to opine about the evils of whiteness and the racist red flags of Richard Curtis. I mean, how can you cancel Richard Curtis? Crikey. How long then before us cheery cattle, who have happily sought shelter in this nation's field amongst one another for centuries, begin to become more stubborn and less responsive to the woke whip of the cancellation cattleman, driving us on down narrower and narrower paths of thought towards safety or towards the slaughterhouse? How long before we turn around in defiant stampede and bolt for those future fields where all cows are colourblind and all cows matter? Britain will only be a great green and present land again when we decide together that all cows need just to come home. And remember, chaps, identity politics works both ways. Let's get on with the show. Well, there you go. And tonight, I'm asking you, is culture is going too fast that the older generation just can't keep up? Email me at gbviews@gbnews.co.uk or tweet me at Lozafox. My lord, I'm so bad at reading that bit, always have been. Right, for the first time since the census began, England and Wales are no longer majority Christian countries. Results from the newly released 2021 census show that 46.2% of the people in the countries identify with the religion, whereas there was an increase in other faiths such as Muslim and Hindu, and more than 37% of the population, 22 million people, are now saying that they identify with no religion whatsoever. Maybe it's just the woke religion. Statistics were also released on race, with a decrease in the amount of people now identifying as white ethnic group, but more classing themselves as other white. I don't know what other white means. What does that mean? Ukrainian, maybe? There was also a large increase in people classing themselves as other ethnic groups. Right, well, joining me in the studio to discuss this is Rafe Hadelmanku from the New Culture Forum and broadcaster Narinder Kaur. How are you doing, guys?
Hi.
Very well.
Very well.
Good to see you.
By the way, Richard Curtis cancelled himself. He wasn't cancelled.
He wasn't cancelled?
No, he cancelled himself.
Wait, why did he cancel himself?
Because he's the one who said he feels very uncomfortable about it now when he looks back at it.
Oh, he's
saying it first before they say it.
Exactly. Being a woke
He cancelled himself.
Is society going too fast? Are we?
No, I think it's on the right gradual path that it should be. You know, demographics are meant to change. Of course, you know, we're not denying, and you know, we accept the census report that Christianity is you know, decreasing. But I don't see diversity as a bad thing. I think it's a beautiful thing. It's amazing. Britain should be proud of itself that we are so diverse, that we've got so many different cultures and religions and colours. Rafe, I can feel that you are dying to say something there.
Look, there's immigration and then there's mass migration. We have experienced in the last 25 years more immigration than the last 2,000
years. Are you blaming immigration
combined.
on the decline of Christianity? Because that's very dangerous and misdirected.
Which I thought we were talking about immigration. Well, no, Christianity.
No, we're talking about Christianity.
Well, we know that there are 1 million more. Sorry, we know that there are 1 million more Muslims. But yes, as a whole,
there's 1 million more Brits in Australia.
Secularism is the main reason for the specific decline in the Church of England. But actually, immigration is one of the reasons why other Christian denominations are actually stronger. So the Roman Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic. One second, my dear. The Roman Catholic Church is stronger in this country. The problem in this country is not Christianity; it's the Church of England. The Church of England has become increasingly woke. The more woke the CV becomes, the more it hemorrhages support.
No, I don't want to be an intervener here, but everyone's got to be able to get a point across. Get your point across, and then we'll have a gap, and Narinder, you get...
There are Christian denominations that are very strong here, and the Roman Catholic Church is one because of the Eastern Europeans who've arrived here. Also the evangelical churches, because of the support they get from Africa and from South America. It's the Church of England that's been hemorrhaging support. The more that it goes to the left, the more it hemorrhages support from people who would normally be its traditional following. You know, it used to be the Conservative Party at prayer. These days it's more like Momentum at prayer, or the Green Party at prayer, or Just Stop Oil at prayer. Yeah. And so it's no surprise. And they're going after an audience that's not interested at all, and they're losing their
why is the audience not interested? Why is he interested?
I've got a theory as to why the audience aren't interested. I agree.
I don't think it's woke. I think the Church of England is not inclusive. Oh my God, their views on gays.
What? Whose views on gays?
The Church of England.
The Church.
They've only just allowed lady bishops.
Have you checked the Church of England recently?
But only recently.
A discussion about whether the wound in Christ's side, one of the most sacred wounds in the whole history of the world, looks in the history of Christian faith, looks like a vagina. These people are off the charts.
I disagree. I think
they're off the charts.
No.
Okay. Do you have a faith?
Yes, I'm Sikh. I'm Punjabi Sikh.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I insulted your Godhead, your
guru,
how would you feel about it?
Yeah, you would be upset. But I think you're looking at these little stories.
Hang on a minute. I've got to get my point. Otherwise, we can't have a discussion. let's get a point. It is, the Church of England is unutterably woke, to the point where I would say it's working for the other bloke. That's just where I stand on it. Now, would you like to say?
I would say, what's wrong with being inclusive? Why are you so scared of the Church of England? The fact that Christianity is becoming Christian, people don't tick that box anymore. They don't want to know it anymore. And it's not because they're woke, it's because they don't feel included, is what I want to say to that.
Who doesn't feel included?
And I think it's a class thing. I would say middle classes, the working class, white British people do not feel included by the churches. It sort of starts my feeling, it's my opinion.
Okay.
They don't feel included. So I think the problem here is...
I imagine the white working class are probably the thing that's propping up the whole bloody thing.
No, I don't think they go to... You don't have people going to churches. In Sikhism, in Islam, in Hinduism, I take my kids to the temple. They take their kids to the mosque. White British people who are Christian don't take them to the church. It's not a priority. Why is that? Why?
The problem is the Church of England has stopped standing for things. People in the Catholic Church are strong. People in the Catholic Church know what the dogma of the Catholic Church is. Evangelicals know what's right and wrong based on the Bible. Islam has strong tenets of faith. Sikhism too. The CV is trying to be all things to everybody and to be so inclusive that no one knows what it stands for.
Christianity stands for kindness.
It's weak as water.
Love thy neighbour.
Love your enemy.
Forgive. It's about
great show. I enjoyed it very much. Love thy neighbour.
Christianity should be. You should celebrate it more.
Also stands for something else, which is he made them male and female. He didn't make them trans. Human beings did that in operating theatres at the Tavistock Clinic and various.
But then times change, and this is where the census has come now. Demographics change, people change, and actually the problem is people are now atheists. They don't believe in any religion in this country.
They believe in the secular religion of woke.
So should we become a secular state? Why have a religious state? Why have
We're not a religious state.
You are a Christian country.
From what I'm hearing in the country, they're trying to bring the church and the state even closer together so that the government will legislate what the church preaches.
King Charles III said in a very famous interview he wanted to be a defender of all faiths. What's wrong with that? Why can't we be that?
No, but he can be both. He is defender of the Church of England.
Defender of all faiths.
Defender of the faith, rather. He's Supreme Governor of the Church of England. We have an established church in this country, which is the Church of England. The monarch is the only monarch in Europe that is actually crowned and consecrated in a religious ceremony. We're the only legislature, apart from Iran, I should say, that has clerics in the upper house. We have an established church, so we are much more than most countries a religious nation to our very core, and it runs through our constitution.
Secular? Judging by the census data report, should we not become a more secular state then?
Why?
Because no one's identifying as Christian.
Well,
you've got less than half the nation identifying as Christian. Yeah. Let's become a secular state.
Well, no, because it doesn't matter. But look, you're talking about I identify as Christian. The entire structure of the United Kingdom and every part of it is built in an ethically Christian manner. It operates off Judeo-Christian values. So what I want to say is, rather than argue about anything, what is the future? What are we looking at as the future, Rafe?
In terms of faith or in terms of diversity?
Of faith, in terms of culture, in terms of these weird words that I have no idea what they mean, like diversity and inclusion.
You don't know what diversity means.
1 second, Lorinda.
Well, the scale of change we're experiencing now, be it on the woke issues, be it on immigration, is so rapid that no society can maintain social cohesion when things proceed at such a rapid pace, and that's the great problem that we have. And of course, whether you believe in the old idea of the long march through the institutions, we're seeing the institutional takeover of our institutions that have no longer a vested interest in standing up for British values.
What's British values?
Well, I'll tell you what.
It's
very hard for the people of this country.
In 10 seconds.
It's very hard to buy.
Rafe, what are British values?
You can't buy into.
Lorinda can have 10 seconds, and then
what are British values?
You cannot buy into Britain. You cannot have social cohesion and immigrants becoming British if they're always told that Britain is a racist country, if they're always undermining our own culture, if you're always elevating minority cultures over the majority British culture, and if you're always trying to tear down statues to our great heroes of the past. What incentive is there for new arrivals in this country to actually be proud of Britain if we always undermine our own culture?
I'm an immigrant's child, and I am proud to be British. I'm proud to be Indian. I can take the best from both worlds, as most people in this country who've come as immigrants do. We do integrate and we do diverse, and it makes Britain fabulous. Let's embrace it, please, Rafe.
Let's embrace us.
Embrace each other. There we go. Diversity.
Diversity.
The only diversity that really matters in this world, let's face it, because we can't change the colour of our own skin or our religion. Well, we can.
But you want to, actually, because you would love to be brown like me.
All right. Right. Stop it, team. Coming up. The Royals have been rocked by an alleged racism scandal. Well, that's new, isn't it? Thanks, Harry. And it's been making waves, so we'll see you shortly.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
And it's about standards and public life. No, I'll tell you what's hypocrisy, Narendra.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin.
We believe in the UK.
No bias, no censorship.
It just doesn't make sense to me. He wasn't doing his job as Chancellor.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here. You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
I think I've seen probably quite enough of Matt Hancock to last me a lifetime.
I'll also be getting to know you better, travelling to find out what you think about the politicians who are fighting for your vote.
They've got to get this country back on track.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. only on GB News, on TV, radio and online.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
In response to our question, Sue says, nope, it changes all the time. Sometimes I'm worried about opening my mouth regarding certain issues, just in case I say the wrong thing, aren't we all? Phil says, this whole issue was a deliberate setup designed to discredit the palace. Lady Hussey deserves to be respected for her service. I couldn't agree with you more. It all feels so like entrapment. And then for Harry and Meghan to drop their little Netflix trailer just in time so we can hear their truth, which is found to be wrong time and time again. A Twitter user says, they shouldn't have to keep up with the changing times. They made us who we are today. Amen. I love my dad. My 83-year-old dad made me who I am today. Some of you may love or hate that, but he's a great guy in my mind. Twitter user. Some people are always looking for a way to be offended. Tell me about it. People get cancelled because someone takes offence over nothing. Pandering to this kind of insanity is ridiculous. I couldn't agree more. That's why the only solution is to mock them to pieces. John says, as a 69-year-old, I believe my pre-computer, pre-internet, pre-anti-discrimination legislation generation has kept up extremely well with the changing times. Susan Hussey is a blot on any generation. Well, there you go. That's always nice to hear a different view. One of the late Queen's ladies in waiting has apologised and resigned after being accused of racially insulting a black British charity boss, Ngozi Fulani. A charity founder says she was questioned by Lady Susan Hussey about her background at a charity event on the Palace on Tuesday. She was at the reception at Buckingham Palace representing the London-based charity Sister Space, which supports women of African and Caribbean heritage across the UK who have faced domestic and sexual abuse. After the incident at the Palace, Ms Fulani described on Twitter, as everyone does, how the royal aide moved her hair aside to see her name badge and then challenged her to explain where she was from. The backlash led to Lady Hussey handing in her resignation from the role she'd held for more than 60 years. What a tragedy. To discuss this topic with me further, as you know, probably what I think about it, I'm delighted to welcome my next guest, commentator and founder of Run Racism Out, Bushra Sheikh. Bushra.
Hi, Laurence.
How are you?
I'm all right. How are you doing?
Who should have resigned?
The truth is, it's not about who's going to keep their job and who's going to resign, because I'm sure that's not the point. The point was an incident happened. It involved racism. Somebody felt a certain way after it. That's what we need to really, really think about.
It involved racism?
Well, it involves racism. It's somebody that's somebody's being discriminated against by the way in which that they are spoken to.
But I get spoken to like that every day.
Are you really?
People are like, you look like you're from Germany, mate. You Danish or something?
It's not the same thing. You know,
why?
When
Because
you
some skin colours matter more than others?
No. It's because, when you're a person of colour, you don't know what it's like to be a person of colour, No, it's totally different for you. It's totally different. You come from a place of privilege, a privilege that maybe you don't even know.
Oh, Lord.
You don't know. I'm telling you.
Oh, God.
This stuff
what about
is
the
serious.
white working class kids who come from no privilege? Are they still privileged?
There is a type of privilege that comes with the colour of
Even with your white working
skin.
class kids?
Yes, because they are white. Because they are white. And you know what? When you're white, you do get treated differently. I'm a brown woman. Firstly, I also get discriminated.
Notice you were brown. But you look Mediterranean to me. I was just like, are you from Sicily? I've literally got the same thing as Meghan Markle. I never thought Meghan Markle was black.
This is serious.
Or brown or
Laurence, honestly,
colour.
I run an anti-racism campaign, and the number of people that I speak to on a daily basis that tell me about their experiences with being a person of colour, it's serious stuff. This is deep-rooted. We really need to think about, is the royal family institutionally racist? Are they? This is a real question, and people want to know.
Is that what we need to think about?
Yeah, we do.
The fact that some lady spent 70 years of her life getting out of bed at the crack of dawn and going to something she didn't want to do every single day, trying to sell this country to the world. So you and me could have had a better life, and we're talking about whether the royal family are institutionally racist. This is ridiculous. I don't care. Nobody. There is direct racism. 100%. And I have mixed-race relatives, so I know that they've experienced that. Yeah. But to lump in direct racism with systemic racism, for me, is the biggest degeneration of the anti-racist cause or the non-racist cause that in history. Really. I think it's so sad.
So are we going to start victim blaming? Are we really going to start blaming victims for the way that they are feeling?
No, I just said we should stand against direct racism. I said systemic racism is a complete and utter fable, and it makes people a lot of money.
So hold on.
That's my view.
So hold on. So the royal family, right, which represents this entire country,
and the Commonwealth.
Country and the Commonwealth for people of colour. And if we feel like that there are people in that system that are directly racist when you speak to them, that is a huge problem. It's a problem that we are facing, that we are seeing unravel, and it's Meghan Markle and the Harry debacle, all of this stuff that's kind of happening at the same time. She must have experienced that stuff being in there, which is why they are doing what they're doing now. That is going to unpack a whole lot of stuff.
So now we're going to the next phase of the woke conundrum, which is believe all women. So if she says she's been racially abused, she has been. You've got to believe her.
Look, you have
because
to
she said so many things that have been... Sorry to interrupt, but she said a million things to Oprah Winfrey that were provably false. So she's a liar. We know that about Meghan Markle.
She's not a liar. She's not a liar.
She's proven to be a liar.
She is basically telling people what her experiences are. And we cannot gaslight anybody into thinking that what they are feeling and what is going on is not true. We have to take her word for gospel.
There are two things. One's called how I feel and the other one's called reality. And she lives in how she feels, not reality.
Oh, right, so now you're calling her delusional, are you?
What's
Which
that?
is so unfair. You can't call her delusional.
I didn't call her delusional.
Technically, you have. If you are going to deny someone's reality, it means that individual's delusional.
Her truth and reality aren't the same thing.
Oh, my God, this is the total gaslight that I've ever heard. Like, no. We've got to take these things seriously.
We do take it seriously.
And the bottom line is
if
someone is feeling that they are being discriminated against...
I feel I'm being discriminated against because I'm a white posh bloke in this country. Thank you very much. Anyway, thank you, Bush Shake. That was fun. Right, now it's time for a quick break, but don't go anywhere, as I'll be back trying to work out this thing, speaking to one of the partners at Hugh James Solicitors about an investigation into abuse in UK hospitals. It's horrifying. Hang on in there.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Monday to Thursday, 10 till 12, on TV, on radio and online.
Every Friday and Sunday night from 9, it's Mark Dolan Tonight.
We're on the same page again. There's something weird happening.
Let Ian finish. Don't be such a cranky.
That mini budget was the tip of the iceberg.
And on Saturday, my show just got bigger. From 8, it's Mark Dolan's Saturday Night In.
You can't govern a country if you can't speak. Stop talking.
My God, we reached the end. I've never been early in my life. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing. You see, amazing.
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Hello, I'm Alastair Stewart, and I'd invite you to join me at noon on Saturdays and Sundays for Alastair Stewart and Friends. I've been in this business for over 40 years. Now, here at GB News, I've never been happier. I get to choose the big stories that really interest me. We hear what you have to say, and you hear what I have to say. I really hope you can join me, noon on Saturdays and Sundays.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Welcome back. Now, more than 4,000 people have been raped or sexually abused in hospitals over the past 4 years, according to an investigation by the Byline Times. They found that more than 1,300 patients, visitors and NHS staff were raped, and at least 2,700 were sexually assaulted within a hospital setting. At least 3 of the people involved were girls aged under 13. And according to the report, only 5% of the allegations resulted in a charge or a summons. My guest to discuss this further is Alan Collins, partner at Hugh James Solicitors, who specialises in abuse cases. Are you surprised by these numbers?
Yes, I think I'd be surprised by any number because of the context. Hospital should be the safest place possible, and any kind of assault in a hospital setting would cause surprise and alarm. So at that level, yes, I am surprised, but I'll be surprised by any number. But I know from my experience of representing people who have been sadly sexually assaulted in a hospital setting, whether it's a patient, a staff member or a visitor, I can't say, but I am surprised.
But how can this happen? I would imagine a hospital is the most CCTV place that you could ever go into other than a police station. What's going on here?
I think there's a number of factors at play. We know from recent cases there's been a problem with employing people who perhaps have escaped a DBS check. So
working for the NHS, wouldn't you? Surely they'd have an enhanced DBS check, wouldn't they?
I think we've seen from some recent cases that this hasn't always happened, and I think it's common sense for anyone working in a hospital setting, working in the NHS, would have regular checks. So I think there's that issue. People who clearly should not be working in a hospital setting, slipping through the net, so to speak. Then we have another issue which I have seen come up quite a bit, which is a misunderstanding about consent. Obviously, when you're in hospital, you are very much in the hands of people looking after you and treating you. And, you know, they're having to deal with you often in a very intimate way. And so there seems to be, in some quarters, perhaps a lack of training and education, and patients being subjected to intimate procedures without having given properly informed consent. And the situation gets misused.
This is the most vulnerable. Obviously, you know, in the past we've heard of rogue doctors and rogue staff behaving in a way, but this is the most vulnerable part of someone's life, you know, and some shattering numbers.
Yeah, whatever the numbers are, I have not seen the detail, so I'm just going by the information that you've kindly provided me with. But over the years, I've seen a range of cases from consultants and doctors behaving inappropriately to rogue employees carrying out, you know, terrible assaults. And we've only got to go back a number of years, and we can remember Jimmy Savile working as a porter.
Oh, yeah.
And everything that emerged from
that BBC hero.
You know, that provides a bit of context. So, and we've seen cases recently of visitors being indecently assaulted and so on. So I think there's an issue as regards checking and rechecking who is working in hospitals. And I think there's also an issue about education and training. We have, in the NHS working, people who come from other parts of the world, and their training and education around issues such as consent is different.
You don't need training and education about whether it's appropriate to rape someone or not.
Agree, but putting that to one side, what I see are cases where the sexual assault is obviously serious, but hasn't gone that far, and it's been in the context of intimate examinations where there hasn't been properly informed consent because there is a defect in education and training which should have been remedied before that particular individual was allowed to practice in the NHS.
How important is it for people to come forward?
Extremely important, and this needs to be given a lot more oxygen so that we can identify where the problems are, rather than just relying on what you're hearing from me today on the basis of experience of representing people who, tragically have had their trust misused.
Well, indeed, and made all the more difficult by the fact that you're not allowed to criticise the sacred cow of the NHS. Anyway, NHS England's response, when asked for one, said, "We take all complaints very seriously. I would strongly encourage anyone who has concerns about any form of sexual assault while on an NHS site to come forward, report it and seek support." Chief Workforce Officer at the NHS England. I would like to thank Alan Collins very much for coming in. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for having me on.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Right, coming up, it's my time for my favourite part of the week, which we're still calling Dish It Out, and I'm going to speak to someone about that later, along with your turkey thing. And today, I'm speaking to journalist Nina Myskow. You don't want to miss it, because we had a bit of a Barney. Sorry.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes & Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Dubes & Kerr.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Welcome back. And now it is time for my favourite part of the show. It was called Dish It Out, but I'm now going to call it Where Are You From and Why Is No One Eating the Sandwiches? How does that sound? Anyway, this week I sat down with journalist Nina Myskow for a good one. Cheers, Nina Myskow.
Cheers, Laurence Fox.
Myskow, you sound like a Bond villain. Where are you from?
Belsize Park.
Oh, right, just had to check there. But where are you really from?
London.
OK. What did you make of all of that?
I think it was quite dreadful. You know, in this day and age, people should know how to treat other people. But having said that, what a tragedy for a woman of that age to have had a kind of unblemished career and such a supportive role within the royal family to have it end at that age in such disgrace. Having said that, it was also about class, wasn't it? It was, you know, and where do you come from, my dear? It's that sort of.
But do you think it really was about class, or would she, as far as I can tell, Marlene or Ngozi, depending on which fantasy world she's living in, seems to have been dressed in full tribal garb, if you will, and she's sort of sat there. I think, in my view, it'd be perfectly fair enough to say, "Where are you from?"
Yes, and I think perhaps she was being slightly obtuse, like I was when I said Belsize Park.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I think if you've experienced racism, which undoubtedly almost every black person or non-white person has done, I think, in this country at some point, if not multiple times, because there's all sorts of racism, then you are going to be very aware and prickly, and you want to establish the fact that you are British, and that people shouldn't really question the fact that you're British because you look a different way from them. And I also understood that Lady Hussey actually just moved aside her hair. It just didn't say, excuse me, I don't know what your name is. She said, oh, I just want to see what your name is. Well, you don't, I wouldn't whip your glasses off, or, do you know what I mean?
Most of pity, love.
So I think it was unfortunate, really, and shouldn't have happened in this day and age. And it's a very sorry affair. But it has highlighted what is within the institution of the royal family and the palace. I think it's really highlighted that.
Well, okay, what about the other perspective? She's recorded this conversation, it would seem. She's got previous form on tweeting about how institutionally racist the royal family are, and the fact that Meghan and Harry have suffered domestic violence at the hands of the royal family. So she's obviously got a political agenda. She's recorded this and she's decided to take someone down. Is there any criticism that should be levelled at her?
I don't think she's recorded it. She's not recorded it at all. I think this is she said this from memory, and she had also two colleagues with her who can corroborate that. I don't think she had any plan at all. I think she'd been invited to a marvellous party at Buckingham Palace. Anybody would be thrilled. And she was completely blindsided by what happened to her. She said everything was a complete blur after this.
I get every single hotel I've ever checked into in the whole world. The first thing someone says to me is, "So where are you from? Where are you guys from?" Whenever I get it, probably I was thinking about it this morning when I was getting ready and getting out. I probably get asked, "Where are you from?" 10 times a week.
And I've had that about.
So why should it be okay to ask a white person where they're from and not okay to ask a black person where they're from?
I think because you have no problems, you've had no problems, presumably, as a white person living in Britain.
I had a few.
Well, a few, but nothing particularly racist about because you're English.
I've had a lot of. I've been called white privileged, which I think is a racist slur. I've been called lots of things.
Yes,
you know.
Justified or otherwise, Laurence. But I mean, you know.
Right, love.
Who's to know?
That's you off the old Christmas card list.
But I'm just questioning it. Who's to know? And I think that the thing is, if you are in a situation where you want to feel part of something and somebody appears to question that, then you have every right to question it, the attitude right back.
So wearing the full African tribal garb, that's totally fine. No. And you go, you wouldn't invite you to go. I mean, if I saw someone in full African tribal garb at a party, I'd go, "Where are you from?" And they'd go, "Hackney." I'd go, "Oh, fine. Where's the garb from?" Would that have been acceptable to you?
I understand that, and part of me agrees with you. But the thing is, she kept persisting.
Got to talk about COVID. Mm-hmm. What did you feel the minute you heard COVID was coming along?
I felt apprehension, like anybody would do. I thought, my God, I think when it started in China, we thought, oh, yes, there's something over there. And then it got to Italy. And then we started seeing reports in Italy and thinking, my God, that's awful for the poor Italians. That's quite dreadful. And then I realised that this country was not taking, or the government, Boris Johnson in particular, was not taking any kind of heed or kind of warning about what was coming down the track. And I thought, well, my God, this is going to be dreadful. And indeed it was. So that's what I thought.
You're saying, as far as recently as last year, you were still saying you're pro-vaccine. So are you still of the belief that everyone should get vaccinated?
I think the people who want to get vaccinated should get vaccinated, and the other ones who don't want to get vaccinated should query why they're not being vaccinated.
That's great. No. Your position has changed. You're now pro-autonomy, bodily autonomy.
I'm not pro-autonomy.
You're not pro-autonomy.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I mean, you're twisting that.
I'm not twisting anything. I'm asking.
No. The thing about vaccines. Before vaccines, we had no protection.
Well, hang on. We had immune systems.
We had immune systems, but we have a country filled with people who are not very healthy, who's not just the immunosuppressed people, but people. As a nation, we are the fattest nation in Europe, aren't we? Or the next fattest nation in Europe. And actually, obesity is one of the real
massive comorbidities for it. Yeah,
absolutely. One of the real problems. And the point being, when you said that vaccines don't protect, what vaccines do. Hopefully, presumably, any kind of vaccine. We're talking flu vaccine, we're talking whatever vaccines you get as a child.
Well, they're very different. We can't lump all these things in together because a smallpox vaccine is a sterilising vaccine. You tap the smallpox vaccine, game over. Polio, same thing. People have started to realise, look, we're noticing that pick up on the booster is 10 million less people are getting boosted. People are starting to go, whether you like it or not. At least 10 million of them are going, ooh, weighing up whether I need one of those when it runs out after 6 months.
Look,
you criticised the young a lot during the thing, didn't you?
I don't criticise the young.
No, you did criticise the young, I said, during the...
In what way?
You said the young are getting far too close together and they're spreading this bug around.
What I did say, I think that was a discussion about increasing cases in the young, particularly those going back to university, say. And I said... I think at the time, one of the charming things about the younger generation is that they're very affectionate, they're rather touchy-feely, but that of course does not conflate with keeping your distance. It's passed on by respiratory and by therefore you're breathing in, my breathing in, what you breathe out. And the thing is with young people is that that's the time of their life they want to be together. It's a physical time, their hormones are raging. I understand all of that. I'm not criticising them for that. I'm just actually stating the situation and saying those were the problems. But the thing about any vaccine or any medical intervention, there is risk involved. Now, when the vaccine first came out, I did not think about it jump on it with shouts of glee. I too, I'm a thinking person. I thought, my God, how long has this been trialled for? It is something that we don't know, okay? So I didn't rush around saying, yeah, jab me. That was not me, okay? I value my health. I've reached the age I am of 108 by being...
Still look like a sexy bomb bird.
Thank you very much. I will not be deflected by that. The point being that I work hard at it. I've conquered my weight problems. That takes a lot. I deny myself ice cream, I exercise every day, I've walked through snow to get to the gym in my later stages of life, and to the extent that I am not on any medication other than a low-dose aspirin at my age, and I don't need specs. So I work hard at my health. I care about what happens to me. I don't want to be on medication, so therefore the vaccine is not something that I would have necessarily thought. But it seemed to me that the only way out of this situation for me, for the people I love, for the wider community, the world, if you like, was to have the vaccine, which gives people a modicum or a great deal of protection.
Exactly. I admire all of the things you said right up into a modicum or a great deal. We're dealing in so many giant unknowns.
But we do know, because the cases have dropped. The cases dropped. Without the vaccine, we would not be at this stage. Without the people who, if you like, sacrificed themselves in terms of experiment, as you would probably think of it, to have the vaccine, because of them risking themselves, as you would see it, we are now at a situation where we are pretty much okay with it.
What I'm trying to get to and what I'm interested in is the level of language, how you've described it to me now compared to what I've seen you say on TV, and I was actually on TV with you once, I didn't get a word in edgewise, I was on a Dan Wootton show with you and you were talking about it, is the level of emotion, the level of vehement righteousness that would come from yourself included.
I don't say I'm vehemently righteous.
Well, okay, that's my subjective view of what you were saying. I don't think is being given back in the other direction. And I think it shows something wonderful.
I think you must be very naive if you think that's not the case. Anti-vaxxers are the most virulent, angry, entitled people I have ever
Well, they had
read.
their whole lives taken away. And now...
We all had our lives taken away, Laurence. We all had our lives taken away. That was the thing. And I think perhaps, as you say that, I'm wondering if that's why people are so vehement, because they had their lives taken away from them. It was something. And they were levelled out. They were no longer special.
Some people didn't have their lives taken away. Our little servile class who drive their little Amazon vans and their Ubers and various things, their lives didn't get taken away.
No, that was...
Us middle class people got to sit at home and not spend any money because we were frightened of getting a virus. But if you worked in Waitrose on the minimum wage, or if you worked somewhere else on the minimum wage, you lived in a totally two-tier society.
It was completely dreadful. And, we rightly applauded the nurses, the doctors. What we forget about the people who worked in supermarkets, who had to keep going, and the bus drivers, because they were in constant contact. I mean, that was just awful. Then, thank goodness, the vaccine came along and worked.
Well, they were working even when the vaccine didn't come along.
Well, absolutely, and they were heroes, and nobody was beating,
No one was clapping them.
No, exactly, but they should.
Now,
they should have been.
Should we? We've just yesterday received the new figures for the National Health Service waiting lists, and they're up again. So, is the National Health Service this thing that every single government keeps just throwing money at, which keeps getting worse and worse and worse? Is it fit for purpose?
Well, I think it's really badly run. I think there are far too many administrators, and the reason that it's at this stage and we're on our knees and we have excess deaths because people with cancer, people with heart failure, people who are potential stroke victims didn't go to their doctors or couldn't get treatment early enough. That is dreadful. But that is like a war situation. But the thing is with the national health, it needs to be better organised. It needs to be, it is the people who work within it, the nurses and doctors that you encounter are wonderful people.
They're great.
And they are on their knees and they are entitled to strike because they really, come on. Well, I think they're entitled to strike. Every human being has the right to withdraw their labour.
Doctors and nurses are entitled to strike.
They are entitled to strike. Wow. Because every human being, I don't think they should strike, but the reason is they've been driven to it. The fact that nurses have to go to food banks, how is that?
Nina, it's been lovely talking to you, and I meant to keep all of this stuff fluffy and light, but I'm always much more into the game. So thank you for meeting and talking.
Great pleasure.
Well, that's all from me. God, that conversation was tough. Anyway, up next, it's Mark Dolan Tonight.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today. I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked. Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?